So after I talk a little bit here, then we're going to have Vendoni giving us the space news, and that's going to take a little while. And we have our special presentation today with Dan Roy passing the torch and how he educates the next generation. And that's not Star Trek, but the literal next generation, right? After our sessions here, we'll be meeting informally at PJ's for a coffee or tea or water. And that's if you go out here of the library out on the main street, take a left, and an immediate right on the corner, there's a little coffee shop. So welcome to join us there and just talk. So I I was thinking a little bit here, okay, what can I say here as opening remarks? And I dug into history. Well, what happened this week in June for space a while ago? And I found something that's really interesting. And that is in July 19th, 1965, we had the first flyby of Mars. Now that sounds like a long time ago, but this is really fascinating because you'll see here an Atlas D rocket, not too unfamiliar or not dissimilar to what we've flown up to recently, right? And here we have the Mariner 4 spacecraft. That's actually the first spacecraft that passed Mars in history. 1965, right? That's a good 60 years ago. What was fascinating was a little bit the history was they took a picture, and back then technology was not what it is today. And so that picture was transmitted at 8 bits per second. And it was only a 230 kilobyte picture, right? And that took 6 hours. And they had to present this to LBJ. Anybody remember who LBJ is? Okay. So it was that long ago. And it took the computer too long to make a digital print. So they hand colored it and presented that to the president. And the comments were, well, the hand paint was a lot better than the computer picture. So what's really good here is, even though we keep on going back to Mars, but we're doing this with so much better technology today. We can do so much more. So there's a lot of progress here, and we do need that next generation, right, to push the limits of our technology ever further and further. So yeah, a little fun fact here. Okay. And like I said here, we can meet here after at PJ's, and there's a little map how to get there. So tell me what you want.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we're not seeing the screen?
No. Just a screen share. Just a screen.
Well, then let me do the one slide again at least.
Oh, it's that way. We're gonna try that. Yeah. We'll close it. Just go back to presentation. Yeah. There's a little icon. There we go.
So can we see that online now? All right. So I'll just repeat that because so we have here the Atlas D rocket, the Mariner 4 space probe. By the way, Mariner 3 didn't amount to much, so Mariner 4 was actually built off some of the Mariner 3 spare parts that didn't go anywhere into space. And yes, here you see that hand-painted picture of Mars. So that was the first close-up picture of Mars ever, but it had to be hand-painted because of limits in technology that we had back then. All right, so I'll pass this on to Vendoni, and she's going to give us all the latest space news. And let's get the presentation switched.
Lapel. Okay, folks, I'm going to start talking because we don't have a whole lot of time now. In fact, I'm probably going to have to nix quite a few of what I had prepared. But I wanted to say, welcome to the meeting. And we've already gone over the PJ stuff, so I think that we're ready to go. I have calling this the amateur space news because I am most definitely an amateur. Because I'm mostly talking to some professionals here. So here we go. Here's my disclaimers further. Fairly new to consuming space news, never worked in space or science, and I do have some brain defects, and I'm somewhat tech challenged. Yeah, oh yeah, I missed that. Oh no. And I'm way over my head. There was so much news. I had so much fun doing the search. I kept going down rabbit holes, and it was like, ah! Anyway, let's go. My advantages, here it is. I would love corrections, especially when I say something incorrectly, but I'm here to learn. So let's go. This is the way I've structured it. Starting with
muted.
Going on through, as you can see. And here we go. Axiom, of course, and I stumbled onto infinity. So let me now get to my notes, which is crazy. What I wanted to say about Axiom is they departed, as we all know, maiden voyage of grace, named after the named by the Axiom crew on June 25th, after being delayed from an earlier date because of the oxygen leak. And I guess they got that fixed on the oxygen leak on the ISS. Oh, let's see. There we go. Oh, wait, nope. So, as we all know, they arrived on the 26th, and they're expected to depart today. Does anybody know if they have? I don't know. And significance of the mission. This mission will enable opportunities for industrial advancements and technological development to drive discovery off planet. Axiom 4 is a stepping stone for Axiom Space's broader vision, the development of the Axiom Station, the world's first commercial space station, by conducting research, testing operational protocols, and building international partnerships in low Earth orbit. Axiom 4 is helping lay the groundwork for the future, where commercial platforms support sustained human presence in space, which we are all looking forward to. And Grace, by the way, is the 5th and final Crew Dragon in the SpaceX fleet. Yes. You are.
People in space.
You are correct.
There are a number of companies that have shipped payloads up to space, and little tiny CubeSats and giant constellations. But this company is shipping people up to space.
Yoo-hoo! All right. So I keep getting a little bit of a reverberation here, but it'll be all right. So, uh-oh, what did I do? I lost my infinity, apparently. Confusing pleasure. Is anybody particularly interested in this? Do I have a time frame for this? I do not know. I do know that they were just recently looking for investors. So I'm guessing that they're not very far in.
dollar value.
I'm sure they do. That I didn't dive deep into. And that's another thing. My disclaimer here. I decided to do a broad view instead of going deep. So hopefully, if you're interested in something, you can look into it a little bit more. So moving on to Texas private companies. Obviously, we've got SpaceX and Blue Origin. Just a few statistics here. SpaceX, of course, they've recently launched its 500th rocket, Falcon 9 rocket. That's just amazing. Starlink expansion. As of June 26th, there are approximately 7,875 Starlink satellites in orbit. Of these, around 7,855 are operational. So crewed mission recently launched back to Axiom again, carrying the private crew to the International Space Station. The Starship blow up. Nope. According to space.com, initial analysis indicates that the potential failure of the pressurized tank known as the COPV, or composite overwrap pressure vessel containing gaseous nitrogen in the Starship nose cap area. But the full data review is ongoing, said the company wrote in an update. Another thing, the Transporter 14 mission, a timeshare launch, recently carried 70 payloads, according to Google, making it a significant launch in terms of the number of spacecraft deployed. It carried a variety of small satellites, small sats, and other payloads to the sun's synchronous orbit. Yeah.
Some statement I was just reading on the internet about COPVs are roughly handled by personnel, transit, or as the packs. And so there's now at least some indication that there's not a design flaw in COPV, rather poor handling during assembly and installation causes damage.
Yikes.
Carbon fiber overwrap, and that led to one of the bottles failing.
Hopefully they'll get back on track soon, eh?
Yes.
All right, moving on to Blue Origin. The New Shepard flights successfully completed its 13th space flight with the New Shepard suborbital rocket, launching 6 individuals into the edge of space. The New Glenn progress was recently awarded the crucial national security space launch contract and expects to conduct the second New Glenn launch this fall. In that launch, the Escapade mission to Mars is the primary payload. Escapade is the twin spacecraft mission, meaning it will utilize 2 identical spacecrafts to provide simultaneous 2-point observation of Mars' magnetosphere.
Statement about the people on the space plane. Is there any information about the people who rode the New Shepard?
As far as like Poland and who else? They're the first time from countries, or what?
Who are they? What do they do for a living? You know, I mean,
right.
We're getting to the point where it's starting to get to the point where regular people now can start writing that thing. Well, not exactly regular people, unless you happen to have 10 or 12 million laying around, but it's getting there slowly, bit by bit.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I do know that one of them was a previous national astronaut, right? And the other 3, I'm not sure about.
I think you're thinking of Grace. You're thinking of the Grace mission.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's what you were talking about.
No, I'm talking about the New Shepard flight.
Oh, the New Shepard flight.
Not the Axiom flight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. There's been one more since then.
There's been one more since then.
Right.
And there doesn't seem to be much information on the people who were involved. And I'm just assuming they were like used car dealers or something. I don't know.
Right.
Plumbers,
I don't know.
where the big money is.
I kind of
plumbing supplies,
celebrity stuff, and I haven't looked deeply into that.
Sanitation engineers. I mean, big earners.
Let's keep going beyond Texas. There is something beyond Texas. All right, and I'm not a Tex today. So, United Launch Alliance. This is in my space knowledge, this is fairly new to me, so I kind of went here. Just saying, our program management, engineering, test, and mission support functions are headquarters in Denver, Colorado. That I did not know. So the ULA launched Kepler 2 mission on Atlas V rocket from Cape Canaveral on June 23rd with a second batch of 27 Project Kepler satellites for Amazon 4's Earth orbit from Space Launch Complex 41 and Cape Canaveral Space Force that will make up the constellation of more than 3,200 satellites eventually. Also, the ULA began stacking these first Falcon rockets supporting the national security mission. The operation referred to by the ULA as the Launch Vehicle on Stand is the first major milestone towards the launch of the third Vulcan rocket to date. It is primarily designed to meet the demands of the National Security Space Launch Program, launching payloads for the U.S. Space Force and intelligence agencies.
This is almost the last Atlas V rocket.
They must only have a couple left. You wouldn't happen to know about that, would you? Or
I didn't
a
know.
bunch? Okay, I thought they were getting ready to like bring that whole Atlas V program to an end because they don't got no more in the warehouse.
Right.
Okay.
Moving on to Rocket Lab, based in Long Beach, California, after moving from New Zealand quite a few years ago. They have 3 launch pads, 2 in New Zealand and 1 in Virginia. I did not know that. They recently completed their 68th Electron vehicle launch. The company's Electron vehicle has reportedly become the second most frequently launched U.S. rocket annually, delivering over 200 satellites to orbit. Currently in the news for stock price. They are currently in the news for stock price increase. Numbers here. You can laugh at this if you need to. The company's operational sources has contributed to a remarkable 479% stock price return over the past year, though analysis note the stock currently trades at premium valuations, says investing.com. This continuation, or yeah, this kind of rings true in the last several days, as Benzinga.com says. Political tensions between Donald Trump and Elon Musk appear to be continuing the boosting of their space stocks, which is pretty good to lead into my next segment. Yes.
Just a few years ago, how about if I just hold on to that? Yeah.
You're getting tired. Just 5 years ago, I mean, Rocket Lab really wasn't around, or they were struggling to get like their first rocket off the ground.
Right.
And I do seem to remember much amusement in the business press about the notion of private companies launching their own rockets. What a silly idea that is. And now they're up to their 68th launch, which, I mean, it used to take 15 years for a company to launch, for one company to rack up 68 launches, or even one country. Yeah, it used to be, Russia used to launch 20 rockets a year, and the Americans were tailing behind at 15 launches per year. And these guys have managed to get up to 65 launches in a very short time, and they're a private company.
Yeah,
this is
beautiful.
You're right. It is beautiful. It is just amazing.
All right, we need to move on, and I think I'm going to leave out some of this segment. However, I do want to focus on the budget, the bill. But let's see. I'm afraid it's going to interrupt my flow a little bit if I don't go into some of this stuff. Let's see what I can. Yeah, definitely, I can probably skip that. I'm gonna guess everybody knows about the whole Jared Ives and Sean Duffy thing. There's probably nothing I really need to say. However, here I will say this. So Sean Duffy's appointment came on the eve of the Senate Appropriations Committee schedule set up of the White House's bill that allocates the funds to NASA, which proposes nearly 25% cut. Oh, well, and we all know that. So the next day, spacepolicyonline.com says, it looked good as it seemed the proposed cuts were not going to happen, but a weird property dispute with NASA and the new FBI headquarters stopped the vote, and now they're in a long recession. That's all I know. This leads into
What are Sean Duffy's what's Sean Duffy's background in terms of running a big a big organization before he do you have any idea?
Yes, what Kitty, well said.
He's not hampered by any actual experience in the space industry. Okay.
He did.
All right.
Correct.
The other thing is he's also in another interim. So they didn't say he's a permanent one. Let's move on.
So I want to back up just a little bit.
Hey,
And
can
I
you guys
talked a little bit
can you
about
guys
the
hear in the
reduced
room?
publicity that's happening in mainstream. Because I'm going to pick up something here under the budget for under this. Space.com continues and says, of note, that statement about the reduction of public media appears to be in line with what the White House NASA fiscal 26 budget request released and has yet to pass Congress. This request suggests the slashing of the agency's science funding by nearly yeah, we know all that. Okay.
Some of us do not know what you're waving about. Could you
Okay,
just
I'm
briefly
sorry.
Make the statement.
Well, the largest single cut in NASA in American history, which would cancel several missions, including operational and in development ones, and reduce the agency's workforce by about a third. So
and the science budget is getting cut by how much?
This is in the budget.
56%. Okay.
Yes, the budget proposal. NASA's budget.
Everything that teach science at NASA.
And I will get into a little bit more of this. Okay.
Okay.
So, let's see. So Neil Reed, the multi-mission project scientist at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, says it basically slashes science just about everywhere. NASA science is cut by a factor of 2. Astrophysics is cut by 2/3.
Wow.
Missions with that in flight. Was it space, for instance? In flight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking of the National Spacecraft. I had to go to FISE. They're going to cancel that when it's right there. $200 million.
So I bet.
The neighbor of mine was into project. And she has to let go one for
Yeah.
So much for them.
So I've got my own little notes here. I'll add that there are so many unknowns and perhaps some contradictions, as you'll see in a moment, and change is unsettling. That does seem that, at least in regard to the Mars mission, this seems to be in line with NASA. Did I miss something? Oh, yes, I did. Let me back up. So the only part of the budget request that saw an increase was with regard to the Mars missions. Perhaps not much of a coincidence, considering the whole thing with SpaceX, Musk, and Trump at the moment. And then that's when I said, in regards to Mars missions, it seems to be in line with what NSS is, going for.
They want all that. What NSS also wants.
Right. So I will skip the reduced grant funding, I think, and the telescope stuff. The main thing with
it's cutting funding to the Webb and the Hubble
well,
telescopes.
not much, but okay.
Yes.
All right, Don, I'll go back. For scientists, some of the most serious consequences of Trump's 2026 budget request have to do with grant funding being significantly reduced, though it's great to have an operational telescope in space. That telescope isn't much use if the science can't have the instructions to go to it, which a lot of those cuts would cut some of that out. But in like the case of James Webb and Hubble, one of their best friends is the Chandra X-ray telescope, and this cutting would go to zero by 2026. Yeah.
X-ray. Oh, they're cutting the personnel for the Chandra X-ray
Yes.
telescope. Oh,
Yes. All right. So I'm already at time, so I want some feedback here. What do you all think that, shoot, because I was going to go over a lot of the contradictions. Do you all want to hear more politics, or do you want to go on to something else? Okay.
Previous people did
You'll
Okay.
be the first one to be on time.
Yeah, you don't want to break that.
All right. I just don't want to cut into our guest speaker's time. So, the legislation earmarks $10 billion to be available until, because this bill is already passed, so this is kind of important. Available until 2032 for projects that have the backing of politicians in states that have held key roles in NASA's Artemis program. So that's kind of the focus of where the space money is going, is to
be Alabama, Texas.
Yes.
California, I'm guessing.
I'll kind of get to that if you want me to keep following on this vein, and I will. So the biggest chunk of this 4.1 billion is set aside for procurement, transportation, integration, operations, and necessary expenses of the space launch system of the Artemis mission 4 and 5. The bill states that no less than 1.025 billion should be spent on the heavy lift rocket each fiscal year 26 through 29. It also includes 20 million to fund the Orion spacecraft for the use of space launch system in the Artemis 4 mission and reuse in subsequent Artemis missions. Here's where some major contradictions come in. These two items run counter to the proposed NASA budget from the White House, which sought to end the SLS and the Orion program following the launch of Artemis 3. The bill also preserves funding to the tune of 2.6 billion for the Gateway, the lunar space station being built through the international cooperation from countries like Canada, Japan, the United Arab Emirates, and the European Space Agency. The legislation states that at least 750 million should be spent on the Gateway during fiscal years 26, 27, and 28. Once again, a contradiction to the 2026 bill budget proposed, and at least in the opinion of NSS, again, we kind of touched on that according to the article in Ad Astra, stating ideas to repurpose the Gateway into projects other than for the orbital moon purposes. The bill also includes 700 million for a new undertaking referred to the High Performance Mars Telecommunications Orbiter. The legislation necessitates that it work both for the Mars sample return missions, which the White House also wants nixed, and for future Mars missions, both crewed and robotic. So, side note that a private company has proposed to take on the Mars sample return for that, for a much reduced cost. Don't have many details on that, but 3 billion, eh? Cool. All right. So there are funds for the International Space Station to the tune of 1.25 billion, with the order that the funds be doled out in increments of no less than 250 million during fiscal years 25 through 29. 325 million is also set aside to fulfill a contract with SpaceX that NASA announced back in June 24 This is for the development and delivery of the U.S. deorbit vehicle, which is designed to slowly lower the orbit of the space station before bringing it down to the Pacific Ocean after the end of its operational life in 2030. Okay, so continuing, coming back to the legislation also sets aside $1 billion for unspecified improvements to the manned space flight centers of NASA, which includes Johnson, Kennedy, Stennis, I don't even know how to say that, Marshall, and McLeod. Does that answer that question for you? All right. Lastly, there is $85 million put aside for the transfer of the space vehicle on Earth. The Space Shuttle Discovery is to be moved from its current location from the Smithsonian to the Johnson Space Center. Okay, moving on here. I'll see if I can kind of run through this. Japanese iSpace lunar lander had a hard landing on the moon. The spacecraft's laser rangefinder experienced an anomaly that prevented reliance from obtaining valid measurements of its distance from the lunar surface. Dang, it's hard to land on the moon, apparently. China brought two spacecrafts together high above the Earth. Greg, I think we talked about this a little bit, that it was coming. And apparently, as far as we know, we think that's what they did, right? Refueled and... Exactly. Yeah, all right. And Quebec is investing 10 million Canadian dollars to support the development of a Canadian-made rocket propulsion system for reaction dynamics. Pardon me? This funding will enable the company to work to qualify the hybrid propulsion system and establish a testing facility with a goal of launching small satellites from Canada. The project aims to have technology 100% Quebec made and ready for commercialization, according to news reports. A first demonstration flight is planned for the end of 2025.
Yeah, that's got to be a black. They're going to put another stage on a Black Brand 4 rocket. Canadians have been launching rockets out of Churchill, Canada, up there on Hudson Bay for like the last 50 years. And they have gradually made them bigger and better and go farther. But, you know, it's kind of like the man said, they have historically been sounding rockets. So the only way to get something to orbit is basically to upgrade from a 3-stage rocket to a 4th-stage rocket. And it better be a rather beefy 4-stage rocket. And that's what they are, is they're solid rockets. They're solid fuel rockets.
All right. Isn't that pretty? I just love that picture. So the Vera Rubin Observatory. With the release of its first images this month, the Vera C. Rubin Observatory has begun a 10-year mission to help unravel the mysteries of dark matter. The observatory will continue the legacy of its namesake, trailblazing astronomer who advanced our understanding of the other 85% of the universe. I think I'm gonna go on here. Biomass. Is anybody interested in these things that they're showing on Earth? I feel like I could probably go past that.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. ISS news though. Oh, okay. Let's see. Well, yeah, because most of this that I had reporting about the ISS was also related to things on Earth. Yeah.
Brain Drain 2 or Drain Brain 2? What's that about?
Okay. Fair enough. Expedition 79-3 Commander Takuha Onishi, I'm butchering that, and took turns wearing electrodes on their neck and chest to measure how their blood flows from the brain to their hearts. The data collected from the trials will help increase our understanding of how blood and its movement throughout our bodies adapts to weightlessness. That's that. Let's go on to this. This was really cool. So sprites are TLEs, or transient luminous events that happen above the clouds and are triggered by intense electrical activity in the thunderstorms below. This was Aries on the space station. She wrote in an X post showing the images. We have a great view of the clouds, so scientists can use these types of pictures to better understand the formation and characteristics of the relationship of TLEs to thunderstorms. That was cool. So, planets, black holes, and asteroids. Oh my. Let's see what we can do here. The comet 3I is probably worth mentioning. It was discovered in July by Deep Random Survey Remote Telescope in Chile, part of the NASA-founded ATLAS telescope, when a comet was about 410 miles away from the sun. So it's an interstellar comet coming in. The European Southern Observatory has captured the clearest image yet of the interstellar visitor as it moves in toward the solar system. The enigmatic object is expected to make a closer approach to Earth in late October of 25, but it won't be visible by telescope or astronomers at that point because it'll be behind the sun. It will become observable again in December of 25 as it makes its way back out into interstellar space. Okay, yeah, I forgot to.
It's like the fastest object in the solar system right now, the fastest moving object. I think they're
cool.
talking
I
about
didn't
it
hear that,
online.
but that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yes, yes. Yes. The double Jupiter thing was pretty cool. This is of course a artist rendition of this phenomenon, but
It's like two muffins.
two muffins. So the headline from space.com boasts astronomers discover origins of mysterious double hot Jupiter exoplanets. It's a dance of sorts. From Earth Sky, they explained scientists said hot Jupiters can form when a gas giant planet farther out in its solar system with an unusual orbit moves closer to the star. The gravity of the second object can cause this to happen. The process is called, I'm going to butcher this, Zidov Kozaha. I don't know. Migrating it in. The Melina Rice at Yale University, one of the three authors of the new paper, said, but what about the double hot Jupiters? They are rarer than single hot Jupiters, but they do exist. The researchers used numerical simulations to see how the system of the two stars and the two planets would evolve over time. The results showed that the same general process occurs, but for each star instead of just one. So that's just mind-boggling to me. Then there's the burping black hole. This too is an illustration, and the inserted photo is the telescope that made the discovery when researchers studied the supermassive black hole powered by active galactic nucleus located about 1.2 billion light years away. The black hole, designated blah blah blah, all those numbers, has a mass around 40 million times that of the sun and powers a bright quasar. This made it a prime target for astronomers seeking to understand how supermassive black holes grow by feeding on or excreting matter. The team examined the black hole using the European Space Agency X-ray spacecraft XMM Newton, finding an influx of matter equivalent to the mass of 10 Earths flowing in the object over a period of just 5 weeks. And this was just gorgeous. NASA released this photo of Cat's Paw Nebula in celebrating 3 years of James Webb. That is just enhanced. It's not, it is a real photo. And how am I gonna do this? All right. I can just run through this. If y'all haven't seen Sally, it was pretty darn good. And then
What's it called?
Sally. Sorry.
Sally?
Okay. Sally is the name of the documentary on Sally Ride, of course. This from The Guardian. The film is really 2 stories interwoven. It's the public and private Sally. The public Sally is well known. This was cool. That is well documented, but that was a problem. They had to bring 5,000 reels in from NASA archive and sort through and sound sync all of them. That was a monumental task.
For those who don't know, who is Sally Ride?
Sally
Ride,
right? Yes. Sally. See, I just thought I'd be talking to people that knew all this stuff, and this would be boring.
Some of them are young. Some
All
of the
right.
people are younger.
So yes, Sally Ride was the first woman astronaut in the United States. Pardon me?
Yeah.
American woman. Yes, yes, from the U.S. Into space. And gee, what year was that?
1983.
83. Okay.
She also served on the Challenger Commission.
Yes, yes, and that was a big deal. Yeah, they did cover that some in the documentary. Yep. Let's see. William Shatner. Did anybody see that? The William Shatner on Stephen Colbert. It was pretty comical. If you can go back and look, that's all I'll say about that. Those 2 were very comical. And Superman, it's out now. I haven't seen it. I don't know if anybody else plans to. I'm not too impressed with Superman, but Star Trek, I am very much looking forward to. Fantastic Four, not my thing either. Thought somebody else might be interested. And then the Invasion series returns for its 3rd season. I'm not into that either. I'm just a Trekkie. All right. Scheduled things to come. I'm sure there was a whole lot more here I would have liked to have gotten on, but these are just a handful of things that I did get on. The AAAS, Australia's first designed and built rocket aiming for orbit, has a tentative launch date in just a few days. Late in July, the Crew 11 mission to the International Space Station is being prepared by NASA and SpaceX, carrying the multinational crew. In August, SpaceX 33rd commercial resupply mission to the ISS will deliver supplies and hardware, and the Dragon spacecraft will have I don't even know what this spacecraft will have a reboost kit.
It'll push the space station higher.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thanks. I didn't even remember putting that in there. Let's see, and then Blue Origin, New Glenn is supposed to go off again in August. And one side note here, I like this headline that Jared Eichmann is donating $15 million for a space camp program at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Alabama. So that's cool. So NASA funds are being jerked, but hopefully people are going to start stepping in. That's it, folks. Wrapping up amateur space news. And I guess I don't need to do anything.
Over this.
Thank you all. Yes, we got. Oh, I'm sorry. The Star Trek is a series, Strange New Worlds, and it's going to be on Paramount.
It's also available for free on Prime. If you got a subscription
Prime,
for Amazon Prime, you can watch. I've been watching it for the last 3 or 4 days. Yeah, get your Star Trek fix. And it's set before Kirk. It's Captain Pike and the crew.
I'll make it focus.
Oh, you put it on the.
Yeah, it's probably.
On to the next speaker, now that we've seen the
Of
whole
course.
So amazing breadth here. So I'd like to introduce Daniel Roy. He's going to be talking about how to educate and enthuse the next generation. And you have particular experience doing that.
Yes, sir.
And so Dan joined us from East Texas, very East Texas, right?
That's why I talk like that. Lake City, Texas.
So he's a master of engineering from France, electrical engineering as well. Led his own software company and worked for the Goddard Maryland. So
That's
very
right.
highly experienced. Many other things, so many I cannot all mention.
That's enough.
And so yeah, Dan, take it away.
Vielen Dank, mein Herr. Das ist nett von dir. Okay. Yeah, I know you can hear me, but can you understand what I say?
Yeah.
Sorry, I do not have subtitles today. You're going to have to bear with me. I gave this talk at ISDC, and they put me in a track that I was very puzzled by. I was in the track over road to space. And I was wondering, what the hell am I doing in over road? What am I doing here? I hope you are not asking yourself the same question now, because if you do, this talk is in the deep doo-doo. But I could not understand until it dawned on me. Over roads to space, fine. Every single road to space starts in somebody's mind. And here is one of them. This is George Abbey, former director of GSC, a true pioneer of the space race. Under his 40-year career, he put our little dirt path to space just after Mercury. He transformed that into a 6-lane highway where we had access to civilians, women, scientists, engineers, people with more melanin in their skin. He was at the end more of a diplomat than an engineer. And it is fitting that the rocket park at Space Center Houston be named after him. In retirement, he created the Foundation for International Space Education, which is where I am now working as, of course, an unpaid volunteer, like all of us. And this is a wonderful foundation that has as a major event a 2-week workshop involving 50 kids from 25 countries. And in those 2 weeks, those kids in teams of teams put together a mission to Mars. I mean, those kids are pretty smart. And if you ask yourself, what the hell is the USS? I'm glad you asked. Okay, now this clip is a little dated. Now we're in 40 countries on 5 continents. We've graduated 1,200 students from some 40 countries again over the 30 years of the program. And the way it works, we get those kids and put them into local families. Now those local families, same deal, are not paid. Okay, they have to host those 2 kids for the 2 weeks. And they feed them a little bit at night, but they are fed by us during the day. And that develops very strong friendships, typically, not only between the kids themselves, which is wonderful to see, but also between the parents on either side, because the parents keep in touch. And I have been involved now with a program enough that I have so many friends in so many countries but I will never have enough years in my life to visit them all. What is really wonderful is to see at the end of the program, those 50 kids who come from so different backgrounds, sometimes different religions, are friends. One time I had all the 50 kids at my place because I lead the astronomy diet for the program because I'm the education and outreach coordinator for the Houston Astronomical Society. I have about 12 telescopes myself. So we have a star party at my place, okay? And they were all there because, of course, as usual, the weather was bad. I could not show anything except stellarium simulations. So they were all in my swimming pool, around my swimming pool, with their feet dangling in the water. And they were talking, and they were laughing, and they were testing, and they were flirting, 16 to 19. And Rebecca and I, my wife, we looked at each other, holding each other's hand, thinking, this is the way it should ever be, always. And unfortunately, when we grow up, we seem to forget this a wonderful feeling that we are all brothers and sisters. We share the same kind of a dream that we have a better life for our children, and then so on and so forth. So anyway, highly recommended. And the reason why I'm telling you this, even though you're way up north for me, is that I need good families. And if you have friends a little bit south of here, I would appreciate knowing about it because I'm always looking for good families. And the way we do it now, we have, by word of mouth, recruited some good people, but they are all from the same Catholic Church. That is not my idea of representing America as a whole. Okay, so I would like to have representative of all of the religions, my dear sister. Assalamu alaikum. And I would appreciate also having people with a different color of skin. Okay, and I have good progress to report on that. A friend of mine in Senegal will participate in the program this year, very first time. And I am in contact with the head of the Senegalese Space Agency. So we will have another set of good contacts in the future. Right now, we select people very carefully. Typically, they are down selected at the national level. So we are not getting a bunch of yahoos here. We're getting people who are really dedicated, and some countries are a little bit less selective. My country of origin is not a very selective one, and I'm working on that too. And a few candidates are independent. I have a wonderful young friend from my ex-neck of the wood because I worked for 12 years in Pittsburgh, PA. And I have a wonderful kid here, Ryan Sabota, who is an independent. Okay, he did not depend on anybody to select him. He said, hey, I want to do it. And he is now in the program. He made it because of sheer determination and a remarkable intellect. And this kid will go far. Now, we look at their CVs, and let me tell you, sometimes it is very discouraging. You see this kid, 18-year-old, who has done all those things, starting organization at the national level, starting all sorts of activities that you can only dream of, and you wonder, what the hell have I done with my life? 18-year-old, one time I had a girl who was in radio astronomy, so I'm a daboli, I was interested in the details. And she knew the stuff, she knew Maxwell's equations. 18-year-old, I say, where did you work? Well, I'm working in Canada. I say, oh, okay, that must be the, what is it, the Commonwealth Astronomical Observatory in Canada over there. I said, no, that was the VLA. The Very Large Array, the most powerful radio telescope in the world. 18-year-old, she was operating this thing. I mean, this is the kind of kid we get, okay? Now, they have an essay, but in this essay, they say why they would like to attend USS and what should be the next step for us to explore the cosmos, and the letter of recommendations. And some of those ideas on how to explore the cosmos are Star Trek looking, you are going at War 10 to Proxima Centauri and much further than that. And so we have to then play their excitement, say, hey guys, let's do something that is realistic, okay? Most of them now do something that is more realistic, but very innovative. One of the kids said, I want to go to an asteroid that potentially could be an Earth crosser, and I want to eat it up. So I say, what do you mean eat it up? The kid was brilliant. He returned all the way back to Tsiolkovsky's rocket equation. The way Tsiolkovsky explained the rocket equation, you have a guy in a boat, and the boat is full of stones, and he gets a stone and throws the stone by the stern. And by reaction, the boat is accelerated. That's the way Tsiolkovsky explained rocket equation. That's what the kid was doing. He wants to mine whatever is important, and the silicates, so the silicate quarks that are left, he expulses them, by magnetic levitation or magnetic guns, and that propulses the dangerous asteroid out of the dangerous orbit. This was brilliant. So anyway, we are very careful to select them. Get half of them, unfortunately, do not make it. A third we interview. And then it's not enough. Then we have the students go through 5 different categories of assignments. The 5 different categories I will later describe, that describe the 5 major aspects of the Mars missions. And their performance on these different assignments guide their allocation to one of 5 teams. And every one of those 5 teams, or 5 to 9 students, is led by a mentor. And a mentor is a former USS student, a student who has gone there before and now guides the new generation, passing the torch to his colleagues. The class is also run by a professional teacher. Here is our good friend Carolina Anabel Casalastro, actually from Argentina. As you know, Argentina is very active in the space program. They have their own space agency, and they have also an independent organization, the CONAI, that design and launches observation satellites. So we are talking about people who know what's going on. Now, Fernando is from Colombia, and Colombia does not have a former space agency, but the Comisión Colombiano del Espacio. So this is basically an organism that advises the Colombian government as to what could be done in space. Esteban, I was actually hosting him yesterday night, picked him at the airport from Costa Rica. Wonderful young man, very interested in environment. He's a mechanical engineer, electromechanical engineer. And by the way, he was telling me that this country, Costa Rica, spends 7% of its budget on education. 7%. It is one of the highest level of education in the world. And those guys, of course, I think the average is 3 to 4%, okay? To give you an idea. So it's quite remarkable. And unfortunately, he doesn't have in this little country all the opportunities, but we are working on that. We are working to import him. We have a Jost here, who is from Germany. We lead the red team, and I forgot to tell you something important. I apologize. When I look at those particular leaders, they are leading a specific team of a specific color. And you see blue here. Now, the blue team is responsible for mission parameters in the mission to Mars. Why are we going to Mars? What will we be doing there in terms of biology research, in terms of terraforming experiments, in terms of whatever it is you have in mind that you will be doing on Mars. That's the blue team. That's one of the 5 teams I was mentioning. Now, the red team that is led by Jost will deal with, no, I'm sorry. That's a yellow team. The yellow team led by Jost will be dealing with the budget and establishing the Mission Operation Control Center. Now, that's always an interesting one because we are talking about very astronomical numbers. Red will be led by Akoren here. Akoren Johnson is, and the red team is in charge of the most important part, the way I see it. Most important is going from Earth orbit to Mars orbit and everything in between. So the ACLS, have you survived in space, surviving radiation and all that? And Aquaren has an interesting father. His father is Glenn Johnson here. And Glenn Johnson is at the head of Hunch, which is the high school united with NASA to create hardware. It's thousands of kids all over the nation that are putting together stuff that may someday fly in CubeSat or even on the space station. That's a remarkable program, which unfortunately is zeroed in the coming budget. And so he will probably lose his job.
So for everybody here,
C'est l'Undanke Mine. Yeah, that's a very important project, and unfortunately, it's going to go down the drain, and that was our gain, because I have no doubt that Glenn will find a heck of a good job in industry. But it's so unfortunate to see that the next generation will not see the torch at all. Okay, now the Maroon here, led by Julia from New Zealand. Maroon team is responsible for orbit from Mars to Mars. So they are in Mars orbit, they go down, EGL, and then they come back up. That's what the Maroon team does. Then the green team is in charge, led by Henry here from Wales, really. Henry is responsible for making his team, his green team, making sure that the astronauts survive on the surface of Mars. So the habitat on Mars, putting together rovers, and that kind of issue. Now the program is very loaded. Okay, as you can see, we have a lot to do in those 2 weeks. It starts with team building. Then on the Friday, we have a visit of the Space Center Houston. At night, we have a star party, and this time it will not be at my place. I already had scheduled with Precinct 2 Park Services a major regular outreach, a major regular star party with the city of Houston in the Challenger Memorial Park. And so we are combining this regularly scheduled star party with the USS star party. So we're going to have 200 people there. It will probably be the highest, the largest astronomical event in the Houston area this year. Now, here is an example of what I'm doing right now that I am retired. This is one of my students, actually. The guy, I hosted him. He was staying at my place for those 2 weeks, three or 4 years ago. And Michael here, Michael Berman, who is from the Isle of Man, little island between the UK and Ireland. And he was an astronomer himself. So it was a pleasure, a joy to have him and observe with him every time with my 12-inch. And here he is explaining to the other kids who were all crammed into my living room, all the 50 of them, he's explaining how a telescope works. Then later we had them build a telescope themselves, basically a Galilean telescope in my garage. And of course I had to bribe them with ice cream. And it always ends up in my swimming pool. And the worst stupid thing I did was one time a little girl asked me, "Mr. Roy, it's so hot. Could we use your swimming pool?" I said, "Sure, honey, if you have a decent bathing suit, no problem." Big mistake. Okay, the girls went straight in, whatever they are wearing. As for the boys, they did not need any bathing suits. It was a total zoo. I thought the neighbors were going to send me the cops, okay, because it was so noisy. And it's always a lot of fun. I love those kids. I just love those kids. And then there is probably the most important, the most exciting part of it, as far as I'm concerned, the culture fair. During the culture fair, the kids are putting together something that represents their culture. And it is part of this intercultural exchange that is so valuable in United Space School. Here, for instance, Sofia and Federico from Chile are dancing their national dance, La Cuaca. Okay, and I'm familiar with that because my wife is Mexican. There are all sorts of other versions of this, such as this one, okay, which is closer to Jarabe Tapatio, which is Mexican. But this girl is from Colombia, and Saya from Colombia. And these dances typically are very beautiful to watch, but the Mexican version I'm familiar with, it is the girl who has the handkerchief. And if she gives it to the guy at the end, you see the guy with a big smile on his face, you know, something good's gonna happen. Now, this one is another aspect of it. Those Scottish kids, is it my imagination? It looks to me they are looking at the girls as if they were lunch. Okay? So we have some time to dampen their own foot. Hey, guys, you know, keep it down one notch, yeah? And I love this young woman, Simbat from Kazakhstan. She was playing an instrument with 2 strings. I used to play the guitar, you know, so 2 strings, something's missing to me. But she was able to make beautiful music, very rhythmic music with their traditional ancient instrument. And then she danced, and she was absolutely wonderful young lady. Of course, here we have Armut representing India in the classical style of Bharata. I'm sorry, that's Bharatanatyam. And I do remember some 60 years ago attending a wonderful dance at the Palais des Sports in Paris, where Yamini Krishnamurti, the legend of India, was dancing in that style. And I had tears in my eyes, seeing this girl who had grabbed the torch of this Yamini Krishnamurti, which was like a god, okay, in her country, dancing the story of courage and duty of the Bhagavad Gita, the sacred text of the Hindu, dancing it in front of me. I had never seen a goddess before, you know. This woman was extraordinary. And this young girl was dancing in that style. And I could recognize the movement, very stylized the movement. And of course, we prepared some food, traditional of their country. And that is always a lot of fun to see that there are many ways to accommodate the same kind of elements. On the second week, we become more serious about the technical aspects of the project. We have very experienced people telling us about what's going on. We have astronauts talking, we have engineers and scientists. And then on the Saturday of the last week, there are team projects presentation. That's pretty serious because we have a bunch of old gray beard on the front, and I'm part of that. And we are preparing the kids with questions. But don't worry, they don't take it lying down, okay? One time I was asking one of the kids, listen, you claim to be doing a change of orbital plane at Mars. You don't have a delta V for that. He said, it's not my problem, it's the red teams. But he was right, he was absolutely right. It was the red team that was putting him on arrival in the right plane. And that is possible. That is very possible with the delta V he had. So those kids are pretty smart. And to give you an example of the same kind of guys who I was interacting with, they put together basically the rocket equation, okay, here somewhere. Let me show you, it's in there, the logarithms of the pen. Yeah, that's what I want. Give me my laser pointer. There we go. There we go. So here is the rocket equation here, okay? Exponential and log of whatever. And he implemented the program in some programming language. Typically, it's Python, but this time it was C#, okay? But this is pretty cool that those kids already have enough knowledge to put together a program to implement whatever they had in mind. So of course, it's kind of silly when you look at that. I mean, if you don't know what kind of engine you have, give me a break. Don't go to Mars yet. Anyway, and after that, let me get rid of these pointers. After that, we have the entertainment, and one of the most famous was when we had astronaut, forgot his name, the astronaut from Canada, Hansen, and we had at the Opera House, and we had a wonderful concert. And of course, we have a celebration by which the people, the kids show the flag and get their degrees. And the degree is typically given to them by an astronaut. And this year it was Bill MacArthur, who worked on 3 different STS missions. And he also participated in Expedition 12, TMA 7. And that means he flew on Soyuz. And one of our good friends, actually, who also worked on Soyuz, had to go back on TMA 1. And there was a little malfunction. And the Soyuz could not do a standard reentry. They went through a ballistic reentry. And that's how Don Petty hurt his elbow. It was Don Petty and Ken Bauer-Sachs, actually. Both of them were returned that day on Soyuz. And you know, you've been on the space station for 6 months in 0G, and poof, this thing threw 8 Gs at you. I mean, those guys are pretty solid people, you know? And Don is a remarkable man. He's so nice. And he's also the oldest of the astronauts, Don Petty. And he's a remarkable photographer and a great teacher. Okay, I've seen his lectures explaining the rocket equation. Actually, he called that the dictatorship of the rocket equation. Beautiful lecture. I mean, highly recommended. It's on YouTube, Don Petty. And again, you know, what is wonderful is to see the friendship that develops between these kids and between the parents in such a short amount of time. And of course, there is the graduation. Now, we have had some very brilliant kids along the years. Interestingly, a lot of medical doctors. I don't know why, but a lot of them become medical doctors. I have statistics, but by, you know, a rough order of magnitude, 20 to 25% become medical doctors. Maybe studying the astronautic CLS and all that, that motivates them to the health professions. And of course, our star this year is Jackson Liebeck. He was, and he is the flight director for Blue Ghost. And he is the one who has landed his spaceship on Mars right side up on the 2nd of March this year. Okay, so that's pretty impressive achievement, and that's to the credit of this team who put together enough work and enough energy to make it such a wonderful success. Another one that is dear to my heart is a good friend, Bethany Evans, USS 2019. Now, this young lady is into molecular biology. And I believe that this is the century of molecular biology. I mean, you have bacteria producing perfect human insulin for recombinant DNA. You have CRISPR that allows us to edit any genome at will. You have AlphaFold, the artificial intelligence program, computing the shape of a protein, knowing the chain of amino acids. And the reverse, you can tell the thing, give me this particular protein shape, which will do whatever it is I want. And the system, by an equivalent of genetic algorithm, actually, compute the chain of amino acids that will produce this protein shape. It is Star Trek stuff. It's just, so anyway, this is the molecular biology century. And I tell you, I cannot wait. I am suffering of patellofemoral chondromalacia grade 4, okay, which is bone on bone. And when I have a cytokine that those guys will have found that produces my good cartilage I used to produce some 70 years ago, I will be back in business. Right now, I'm looking at surgery.
There you go.
So anyway, I played on the game here because the theme of ISDC this year was Together Beyond. Unfortunately, Together Beyond Darkness would be more appropriate when you know that 25% of Americans think that we spend too much in space when it's 0.2% of the budget, okay? And for this source, it is no less than Xavier Gonzalez, who in 2025, on the 14th of June, actually, at a meeting like this one, was telling us, he is the VP of Education for NSS, okay? Then a 2014 poll found that 26% of Americans believe that the sun revolves around the earth. And then another kind of survey showed that 84% of the people think, yeah, I guess I always knew the earth is round. But more importantly and more annoyingly, of the age 18 to 24, only 4% were sure that the earth is flat. I mean, but it's easy again to say, oh, those idiots, you know, we know better here. No, 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 no. Repeat after me. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. This is my fault. This is my fault. This is a very big fault because we are responsible for telling them. If they don't know, don't just scream at it. Tell them. And that's what I'm trying to do with my little group in my little neck of the wood. We are putting together every single first Saturday of the month a star show and a microscopy show, basically a STEM show, and we distribute flyers, we distribute old magazines, and we give lectures. And I'm partnering with a wonderful young woman, a 20-something from Senegal, here on the screen. We also participate as judges in the Science and Engineering Fair of Houston, for instance, which is another way you can easily participate in passing the torch. We give lectures in libraries, and we have this regular meeting that is encouraged by the city. You know, that's like NSS, okay? NSS at ISDC, you pay for coming in, and then you give a talk for them, okay? But you don't even get a cup of coffee for this, all right? So that's a pretty good business model. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir. This year I was not. Okay, last year I was special judge, but the year before I was an ordinary judge, and they put me in astronomy, of course. And that's a very important thing and very relatively easy thing to do. It is not a big deal. It's always very well advertised. I'm a member of the AAAS. Now with AAAS, if your car breaks down, you're on your own, okay? Because AAAS is the American Association for the Advancement of Science. So if your car breaks down, don't call them. But it's a wonderful organization that will tell you about this kind of a, yes, sir.
Thank you. Your school participates then in the Regeneron International Science Fair, right?
I did not know that. Good.
That's the largest science fair in the world.
That's very important. And again, there is no reason why we could not be involved in that, okay? It doesn't require a lot of effort, a lot of work to do that. So highly encourage to try that. So what we do is also, we were noticed by SCH, of course, and they selected us to put together a program with our telescopes and the clubs in the area to show the eclipse to the public, but it was in October 2023. That was the partial, actually. And that was a zoo. I mean, we have 3,000 people here, for heaven's sake, and there is no way we could handle that. And this needs a little bit more work, okay? Better organization, better planification. The problem I had, and I always have in a big event in astronomy, is the astronomers are going for the good stuff themselves. For instance, when there was the total eclipse, okay, which was in February of 24, they all went on the path of totality, okay, ended up in Dallas, for instance, which was one of the best spots for that, by the way. Everywhere else was very cloudy. So it's very hard for me, okay, to find astronomers to help me at SCH if the real guys are chasing totality in the countryside. We gave talks at Space Center Houston in the major auditorium with my friend from Senegal. And by the way, I want to put a plug for that too. because this program called NASA Partner Eclipse Ambassador, this particular program is put together by the society, the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, a very prestigious organization for astronomy. And they have put together this program by which an astronomer is paired with a student, okay? And those two work together to put together programs and pass the torch to other generations. Now, I've decided to move on to microscopy as well for a lot of reasons. One, because I know this is the century of molecular biology. So I want to hook the kids with biology to start with. But the second reason is more prosaic. I never have good skies in Lake City, never. Okay, there is always light pollution, there is always some clouds. So what do? And I always advertise, I never cancel. And that is pretty stupid because indeed I never cancel in the 10 years of the program. One time I was in the hospital for a suspected stroke, and I knew I did not have a stroke. I mean, I did not have any of the standard issues. And I knew that they had done the MRI, they had done everything they had to do, and it had returned negative. So I demanded to be released because I had the star party that night. And so they had me sign a release against medical consent. Okay, so I did not want to just cancel, made it a point of honor, because if you cancel, then you're not reliable. People will not believe you anymore. But I think I'm going to ease up on that because now it's not only me. I have a team of 4 friends who are always helping me doing this thing. It's not only me. So I cannot impose that on them. So instead of canceling, I decided to add microscopy because microscopes don't care if it rains cats and dogs. Okay, we are in the shelter and we can show the ecosystem in a drop of water to the kids, even if it's not very good outside. A telescope, on the other hand, that's another story. And it's wonderful to see the excitement from the kids. And so my point is this, okay? We have to do much better. We, the people of NSS, we have to do much better in terms of passing the torch because there is a lot of work to be done here. We are going to need a lot of torches to illuminate all those little corners of darkness. Okay, and I think this is probably the best thing that personally I can think of doing. And as far as I'm concerned, I will keep passing the torch, 50 kids at a time, until I reach escape velocity, because that will be my way to honor the legacy of George, William, Samuel, Abe. Ad Astra! Okay, boss, here.
Fantastic, Dan. Let's all carry that torch. And wonderful example here of how we can do education, right? So, and we need to do that, obviously, because there are not enough people here going strong for space exploration. We need to put more pressure from the bottom up. Fantastic work, Dan. Thank you very much. All right, that's pretty much at the end. Oh, yes. Yes, please.
I have a presentation to make for Robert Hull. If I could do that.
I was about to get to there.
1 minute.
So Robert, please come forward.
Yes.
And then after the presentation, we'll all come in front and have a group picture.
Yes.
Yes.
Turn the lights on.
Hey, Robert, Robert, please come up. Come in front. Robert, this is, we're giving you this poster as a, for all your hard work with the National Space
Society and for the NSS North Houston chapter. Not just here, but at the science fair
Right.
and at our comic Palooza. And other, now this happens to be a poster of lunar roving vehicles going back to Apollo and the future of space exploration, a permanent return to the moon by both JAXA and I will design also. So this is for you to bring home and for NSS.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And Robert is highly engaged in all our activities and in so many different societies. So very nice.
I want one too. Okay, go ahead. Take it home and you can have it as some talking points.
I will. I will.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Very good. Thank you, Robert. It's good knowing you and we'll continue.
All right, well, stay up front. Anybody who will. We always do a group picture here at the end.
Hey, Robert, come up, let's have a group picture. Go ahead.
So we're
Come here.
diagonal sideways, we're all fit. Yeah, we're all part of the group.
Go ahead. Great. Can we get in? Oh, yeah. Hold on real quick. Okay, everybody looking toward me. Ready?
May I have your attention, please? Later, via money, please come to the first floor customer service desk. Via money, please come to the first floor customer service desk.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And if you'd like to help us pick up a little bit, and we meet at PJ's for
PJ's right
a
after
coffee
here,
or a water.
yeah, they have croissants and things like that. Purchase.
All right. Well,
Really?
thank you for doing all that.
I marveled that, look, we're way early.
I know we're early, but it doesn't matter. That part doesn't matter.
Schedule some of
Yeah,
these.
questions. I'll shove us over time.
Yeah, we have ways, yeah.
I can do it.
Oh, and one of the Japanese, Honda launched a rocket. Honda.
Yeah. that was kind of cool.
Well, actually, in Europe, there's so much going on. The French, the Italians, the Germans, they're like a dozen new rocket companies.
Yeah.
More time, I would have added a minute.
Hey, I told you to go longer. I did. All right.